Premier Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing Ian Mwinga, the National Coordinator of the Zambia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, which is known as ZEITI. The mission the world over of EITIs, such as Zambia's ZEITI, is to strengthen governance in the mining sector through transparency and accountability to make sure that natural resources improve the lives of all citizens. It gives visibility to the level of natural resource wealth shared with the governments of host countries. Hi, Ian, it's great to chat to you. Is it true that Zambia is the first country in Africa to adopt what is known as the G factor? The G standing for the words including governance and good practice and government, and to publish online the data for a number of companies working in Zambia.
Yeah. Really excited to be part of this revolutionary process that we have embarked here in Zambia. The G factor is actually a game changer in many respects. As you rightly pointed out in your introduction, that the EITI, at the core of its mission, is to foster transparency and accountability in the extractive sector. And for the case of Zambia, we are looking at the mining sector. And I think for us, what is exciting about the G factor really is to translate what exactly transparency and accountability means in practice in terms of the national discourse, but also, most importantly, the value that transparency and accountability brings to local communities. As you probably know, most of these mining operations, they are not based in Lusaka. They are based in local communities out in the rural areas. And I think there is value in having a metric that brings that into reality for the everyday person to relate with how the company creates value in the community, but also value for the country. So really excited indeed, Martin.
So it's a great initiative, but how are people responding? What is the material feedback that you've encountered thus far?
Well, it's still early days, I must say, but I'll tell you that there's a lot of excitement around the G factor. We at the ZEITI pride ourselves as the front runners in this space. I will also mention to you, for example, amongst our peers in the EITI, fold, there is quite a lot of interest in our peers also getting onto this space. Internally, also within the government, there's been a lot of interest to understand and also adopt the methodology of the G factor. As you rightly pointed out, the G factor, in fact, in its simplest form, shows how much value accrues to the community and to the government after all the deductions have actually been made. And the feedback for us has been very positive all around. Initially, our focus was with the colored gemstones, emeralds, kagem was our first port of call. I should mention here that we have actually cascaded the whole methodology to other companies that are not in the gemstone business, but also in the base minerals. And also there's one mining asset, which is in the core business. We've also captured it in the Ford. So if you go to our website, which is zambiaeiti.org, you will find the G factor metric on multiple years. And we are excited to actually continue building on that going forward.
And can we look at some of the hardships that you have? It can't be a walk in the park. You pioneered this initiative. I remember once we tried to pioneer it in South Africa unsuccessfully. What challenges did you encounter? And was there any resistance to the idea?
Well, I think the obvious challenge that one gets into is the fear of the unknown. Anything new is scary. And I think for us, what worked for us was the fact that we integrated the G factor metric into the EITI process, reporting process. So it was just an add-in into the disclosure requirements that we have. But of course, I think going forward as well is the major challenge that I see is probably there is a lot of interest, and I'm not very sure whether we are adequate enough to actually, engage with that interest and be able to competently champion this going forward. And that is why, as part of the measures that we have put in place, is to make the G factor popular, to make the G factor also available to the civil society in their work, to make it available to the Zambia Revenue colleagues, whom we work, very closely. And we are excited, Martin, that this is a metric that is very, very easy to deploy. It is not very complicated like your typical EITI reports that are 300 pages. The G factor metric, if you see some of the disclosures, for example, from CAGM, it's a 2-3 page document that you can actually immediately understand and see the trends, in a flash like that. So that, for me, is the value add. And this ties in very well with our aspiration within the EITI to mainstream the EITI implementation, moving away from 300-page documents and reports to a one-pager, which can give you all the statistics at a glance. And I think for me, that's where the value is.
But there must be some sort of basics that are required. What conditions and circumstances existed in Zambia that allowed for the implementation of this G factor?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's probably not even unique to Zambia, but I think it's quite unique to the EITI as a whole. The aspect of the multi-stakeholder approach to these things. You need to get everybody around the table. And as we always say in the EITI Palanche is that, the EITI is a three-legged stool. If you remove one of the legs, the stool will not hold. So therefore, it is imperative from the very start that you bring everybody on board, have a multi-stakeholder dialogue. And the value of this is that when you have data driving your conversations and discussions, as they say, numbers don't lie. So therefore, you have congruence, you have convergency on a lot of issues without very little controversy. Otherwise, if there's any controversy, it's actually based on facts and numbers and not any generalizations or anything like that. So the conditions that support the deployment of such a metric actually anchored around the spirit of multi-stakeholder approach within the EITI.
And I must compliment you because I went in and had a look at your data. It's really nicely put together, colorful as well, so you can pick up things rather quickly. But does it cover everybody? Or do you still have to do a lot of work to cover the whole industry?
Well, it's still work in progress, I must say, but I'm quite excited that the basic building blocks have been put in place. What we are hoping, looking ahead, is the fact that we want to have a nearly automated online repository, a portal, which is actually pinned on the website. The idea is that we ought to lessen the manual uploading of data. For example, if you take the cadastre, there is no need for us to actually go there and plug in a flash disk and download the Excel files onto the website. What we are hoping for is to have a seamless data exchange between systems. And for me, that is where the real transparency and accountability is. Because then what you'll be looking at is the general governance of the system, the institutions that are charged to actually make sure that the data has integrity. And therefore, you take away the human element. And one really thinks that that should be the aspiration of many other jurisdictions that are interested in transparency, removing the human element from the transactions that are taking place in this space. And I think for me, that would be an aspirational goal going forward and something that I look forward to.
And are there any plans to roll out this G factor beyond mining? For example, the timber forestry business?
Well, why not? I mean, resources allowing, this is a metric that is very flexible. This is a metric that can be deployed, but also we are also mindful that we can only do so much. And that is why in our space, we have empowered also the civil society organizations. We know that there's a lot of data that is sitting in various government departments. So anybody, even academicians, can pick the G factor methodology and deploy it to other sectors, including fisheries, to understand what value is realized from there. I mean, you've got wildlife as well, and many other extractive resources that can benefit from such a metric. So resources allowing, why not?
And what advice would you give to other countries when it comes to adopting and implementing the G factor and enabling this essential transparency?
One word, get on with it.
And are you open to other countries, other ministries phoning you up to find out the benefit of your pioneer experience and what problems should be avoided?
Absolutely. We are speaking already with our colleagues in Mozambique that are also interested in this space. Our colleagues in DRC as well have also expressed interest, and also colleagues in Nigeria. So we are very open to actually, make this metric very popular. The G factor is one of the issues that we are going to be showcasing at our upcoming EITI validation for Zambia in October. And already optics indicate that the G factor metric is going to give us a bonus rating during that validation. So we are very excited as a jurisdiction that has pioneered in this space, inviting other countries to come and learn, and also, of course, get feedback from others in terms of how they see it going forward.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Ian Mwinga, the National Coordinator of the Zambia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, ZEITI.